when we look at cost constraints in a climate where we're evolving in terms of our techniques and technology, we're getting better and better at what we can offer patients, but the budget's getting tighter. So at this juncture, this is the key piece. How do we make those decisions? How do we continue to innovate and improve and advance in our medical techniques and technology while understanding fiscal constraints? Patient perceptions, patient outcomes are the thing that's going to unlock all that. So I'm a plastic surgeon, and I think it was actually inevitable. This is where my research would lead. Because in plastic surgery, everything we do is about quality of life. So I work at a cancer hospital, but I don't save lives. My job is to try and make them better. And what this has revealed to me, though, is that this is true for many physicians across a spectrum of healthcare. So much of orthopedics, so much of medical specialties, so much of, if you look at cardiac, across all of medicine, so much of what we do is really about improving quality of life. In terms of how we traditionally have tracked patient outcomes, it's primarily been from a clinician perspective. So traditionally we've looked at things like complication rates, we've looked at perceptions of outcome as judged by a surgeon or as judged by a physician, but more and more we're moving towards looking at outcomes from the patient's perspective. And I think we're recognizing that this is not only complementary, but absolutely integral and absolutely critical, particularly in a time where our health resources are becoming increasingly scarce, and we need to really understand what works better or what works just as well from the perspective of the consumer, the perspective of the patient. The key to focusing on patient-reported outcome measurement is that we're really going to the source of who we want to help. So in all of medicine, the key piece is helping the patient. And so in this environment where we have payers and we have cost constraints and we have sometimes a friction between what a surgeon wants to do, a physician wants to do, what a patient might feel that they would like to have as a procedure, the clarity comes in understanding what truly works best from the patient perspective, and then being able to put that into that whole equation of cost and what we can afford in terms of our healthcare budget. We have a quality of life researcher, Dr. Ann Klassen, who's based in Canada at McMaster University. Ann is a world-class qualitative researcher whose focus is quality of life measurement, patient satisfaction measurement, and she has really been the core of our work around patient interviews and extracting that information. On the other end of it, when we're looking at the psychometrics, which is really the math, the understanding how different questionnaire items are functioning, Dr. Stefan Cano in the UK has just been an absolute force. He is a tremendously respected psychometric researcher worldwide, and he has been able to lead all of our data analysis in very innovative ways, and with a strong focus on clinical meaning. So as opposed to looking at the data and mixing it together and say it's just about the data analysis, what Dr. Cano has always been able to focus back is the back and forth. What's the clinical meaning here? And so I think the strength of our work has really been also in the strength of our team. So the first product that we developed was the BreastQ. And the BreastQ is a patient-reported outcome measure for breast surgery patients. And our team coalesced around this work about 8 years ago. And that work started, again, initially with very careful qualitative work, a lot of time spending with patient interviews and extracting that information that patients were telling us to put this into a questionnaire. That questionnaire has subsequently become enormously successful. And so it's being used in large FDA trials. It is being used to the scale of 50,000 patients being followed for 10 years. It's being used recently by the National Health Service in the United Kingdom. In the NHS, the patients completed the BreastQ after surgery and then up to 18 months following surgery. So longitudinal follow-up, which is key, and then being able to then tease out the clinical variables to understand what surgical procedures worked best, but not only that, but what surgical procedure worked best in which patients, and then to be able to feed that information back to patients so they could make better decisions, feed that information back to the individual physicians so that they could understand how they could achieve better outcomes, and then how to feed that information back to the government to understand where resources were required to be able to optimize outcomes. So in terms of the success of the phase Q, what we see now is large pharmaceutical companies around the world using the phase Q in clinical trials, and then being able to take this very important data back to regulatory agencies, both in Europe and in the US, and being able to have a much more robust conversation with the regulatory agencies to really show the benefit of their new products. What we can also do is, as the science of medical science improves, we can continue to evolve our measures so they continue to provide the cutting-edge measurement we need them to. So if we are at point A in terms of the kinds of treatments we can provide today in 2012, when we are someplace different in 2020, our outcome measures will have been able to respond to that. We will have extended our ruler to be able to provide that highly calibrated, precise measurement that we need in 2020. I think a strength of our measures is because of the methodology we've taken, our measures can evolve. So they can get better and better and better and better. Traditional patient-reported outcome measures are relatively static. Version 1 is what it is, and that's what it always is. And the transition to version 1 to version 2 is a relatively painful step. I think in terms of the next horizon for us, or what's next, developing the breast Q and the phase Q was really our learning curve. So our team coalesced around that, but the subsequent products, the breast Q and the phase Q, in that process we learned a great deal. And what we've learned is how to develop patient-reported outcome measures that are truly state-of-the-art. And those kinds of state-of-the-art patient-reported outcome measures can reveal insights that we never had before. So for scientists looking to develop new products and techniques that are superior to what we've had before, for physicians looking to improve upon what they're able to offer to patients, for patients seeking to better make decisions around their own health care, for payers, government, regulatory agencies, what I see now is that based on our experience with developing these measures, we'll look now to develop a host of other measures using the same methodology. And those outcome measures can be used to collect data that will really, I think, unlock so much in healthcare for us. I think the key thing for a life science company that's looking at patient-reported outcome data is that they see differences, that they see from a pre to a post-treatment window that something happened. And traditional patient-reported outcome measurements have failed to a large extent in that arena. You might have a wonderful new technique or a new technology or treatment, but if you use a patient-reported outcome measure that doesn't show any difference, isn't calibrated to detect difference, then it looks like nothing happened. And so what the companies that have been using our measure have told us is that what we're seeing is tremendous differences. And that allows them to distinguish themselves relative to other treatments, and also then to explain the benefits of their new treatments and technology to regulators and to patients, to their market. So I think from a naysayer perspective, you could consider that patient-reported outcome measures and measurement and understanding that is a fad. I would say that when I look at healthcare, what's the key piece? It's about the patient. So I don't see this as a fad. I think this is the complete paradigm shift in healthcare, understanding the patient perspective and acting on that.